In this piano tutorial, I'll be breaking down one of the videos that I uploaded to my Instagram. And in this video, I basically play over Israel and New Breed's version of Evidence by Josh Baldwin, right? And I'll play this video right now.
One more time, I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life. God, I wanna thank you all over my life. I've been living in the goodness of God. I see the evidence and fulfillment all over my life. Stay with it all over my life. All over
So as you can hear from the video, this song is in the key of G major. But what I decided to do for this cover was basically reharmonize the progression that is played. And if we pay attention to the original progression of the song, if we look it up or if we already know it, it's a very simple progression. It starts off on the 1, right? And it goes like this. It goes 1, I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life. And then it goes to a 6, right? E minor, all over my life. Then a C major, in this case the 4, right? A very simple progression. It goes from the 1 to the 6 to the 4. But as you can hear from the video, I included a bunch of different chords, and the point of playing those chords is more to demonstrate how we have so much creativity, we have so many options that we can do with the chords or the passing chords or the substitutions that we use within our playing. Okay, so what I do here in this case was play a G major 7, right? Instead of playing a straight G major, I just converted it into a G major 7 by adding that extension, right? And again, you can choose any voicings that you want, for example, right? But in this case, I played it like this, and I also like including grace notes, and that's all personal, right? You can experiment with different grace notes, but in this case, I just go from the E to the F sharp, right? So in reality, it's almost like a G major 6 going into a G major 7. So I play the 1, but then from here in the video, I go to the 4. But in reality, we can play any other chord, because if we pay attention to the progression, it actually stays on the 1 for quite a while. It plays, I see the evidence of your goodness, right? All over the 1, all over my life. And then it goes to the 6. So we can experiment with different chords as long as we get back to the 1, right? We basically make up progressions that lead us back to the 1. For example, this is not what I played, but we can also play this progression. I see the evidence of your goodness, right? It doesn't make sense, but as long as we get back to the 1, and as long as it sounds good to you, you can include it in anything that you do, right? I see the evidence of your goodness, right? A different progression, but it all leads back to the 1. I see the evidence of your goodness, right? But in my case, what I decided to do was play the 1 to the 4, then the 3, then the 2, and then back to the 1, right? And the exact voicings that I used were G major 7, then I played this this C major 7, again including those grace notes. Then I went down to the 3, which is played as a G major, add 2 over B. Then a A minor 7, which is the 2, and then back to the 1. Okay, so all together. Right, so I see the evidence of your good. right? Now, from here, remember that in the original progression, the next chord is a 6th chord, an E minor, right? And in gospel or in jazz, there's a bunch of different ways that we can get from the 1 to the 6. And one of the most popular ones, which I tend to use a lot actually, is the 7-3-6 progression, right? For example, if we're on the 1, I see the evidence of your goodness. 7, 3, and then the 6, right? And that's perfectly fine. But in this case, what I decided to do was to include a lot of different movements within the progression. So instead of starting from the 7 and then going to the 3, I decided to start one chord before the 7. And if we analyze this progression, right? 7, 3, 6, we can notice that we're basically just going up in fourths, right? We go from the 7 up a fourth to the 3 or to B, and then up a fourth to the 6, which is E. So what I decided to do was start in the chord that is actually a fourth below the 7. In this case, a C sharp, right? So if I start on C sharp, the fourth would be the 7, okay? In other words, C sharp is the 5 of F sharp. And the chord that I use for C sharp is this one right here. It's a C sharp altered, or a C sharp 7 sharp 9. Right? And this chord is used as a passing chord to get to the 7. Right? And usually the 7, as I demonstrated before, is played as a minor 7 flat 5 chord. But I switched it up slightly for this progression. So I'll play it through and then I'll explain the chords. Right? So I played 7, 3, 6. Okay? So I started with this flat 5 or C sharp. And then for the 7, I played this chord. Right? An F sharp 7 flat 9. And I played it with that pattern. And then for the 3, I made it an altered chord as well, right? So far we've done 3 altered chords. C sharp altered, F sharp altered as well, right? Because of the flat 9. Then a B7 or B altered, right? Because of the flat 9 and the flat 5. And I simply make this other alteration where I raise the F to the F sharp. And then to finally land on the 6, I play this chord, right? Where I basically do a grace note from the E to the F sharp while holding down A on my right hand. And my left hand is playing an E minor in that open voicing, right? Where I play the 1, the 5, and the 10th. And then I basically resolve it to an E minor. Some people like including this major 6th, and it would sound something like this. Right? It's an option that we have. So once again, from the beginning. And that's how we land on the 6. But what's the next chord in the song? It's a 4, right? The next chord is a 4. And again, we have different options. One of the most popular ways to get to the 4 is a 5-1-4, right? 5-1-4. And that actually works for this section, but it's not exactly what I do. I actually make one substitution, right? I played right, that works out in that section. But what I did instead was play this chord right here. We're back to that C sharp altered with a slightly different alteration, right? We're playing a C sharp 9 sharp 11. But this chord is basically a tritone substitution, right? because if you think about the secondary dominants, in this case, we want to get to the 4. The secondary dominant, or the 5th of the 4, is G, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. G is the 5 of C. But instead of playing a G7, I substituted it for the tritone of G, which is, right, C sharp. We just count 3 whole steps up. 1, 2, 3, and we get that C sharp. So I basically created a C sharp 7 or a C sharp 7 altered. And in this case, I voice it like this. It's a bit of a stretch in the right hand, but it gives us that rich, jazzy type of sound. And we use that as a passing chord to get to the 4. Okay, so all together. All over my life. And then we land on that 4 chord. And for the 4 chord, I voice it as a C major 9, 13, okay? Now from here, it actually makes its way back to the 1 chord to repeat sort of the same progression, right? And one of the progressions that I like to use to get back to the 1, right? If I'm on the 4, I like going to the 6, then the 2, then the 5, and then the 1, right? Without any extensions to the chords, it would sound something like this. Right, it sort of follows that circle of fifths, and it leads us to that resolution on the 1, okay? But in this case, with the voicings that I used, I played 4, then the 6 in this voicing, right? E minor 11, then a 2, and then this 5, I change it into a D13 chord, right? And I love that voicing because it resolves very naturally into this G6-9, something very jazzy, right? So I play it again. 4, 6, 2, 5, 1. And then we go back into that progression. I say da 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 da. Right? And if we go back into the original progression, we notice how all of these chords that I included are basically all divided into 3 different chords, right? Again, this song is basically going from the 1 to the 6 and then to the 4. So hopefully this serves as an example of how we can experiment with different progressions to fill up the spaces in between chords, not necessarily to make the song sound better, but just to better expand our musical vocabulary.